So what was
Hi, Cameron.
Cameron, what you got for me, Cameron?
My football team's finally 5-1.
Who's your team?
The Colts.
That's silly, you're wearing a Colts hoodie, 5-1. Cool. That's right, they are 5-1. You're pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
But do you get to watch them much? since you're
Yeah.
here?
I do. Because I have YouTube TV, so I get to watch all the games.
Oh, so you watch all their games? Yeah, from my understanding, I'm not a Colts fan, but it appears as if the quarterback you have, who used to be quarterback in New York, he is suddenly blossoming into this amazing player. Is that true?
Yes.
Oh, that's what I thought I was seeing. All right, let's see. What's your name again? What? Cash. Okay, Cash. What about you? Anything you want to share? Anything really cool? Something you're grateful for? You're buying a car. Are you shopping, or you already know the car you're gonna get? Which one? Did you research?
I'm sorry.
So you're finance, and you're gonna try to pay it out right now.
Please.
Or you're gonna take the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is the best way to run. Because then you don't have a car. You can save it. See, that's the best. I know it's not always easy. Sometimes we need a car, but it's always best if we can pay for it in cash. Because when you have a car note, I don't know if you guys know this.
No.
I'm just gonna no financial lesson about car notes, just real quick. If you, let's say you buy a car, you go to the dealer, and the car is $10,000, and you go, okay, I'm gonna finance it, which means you're gonna have a car note. Let's say 10,000. Let's say it's a 4-year car note, so you'll be paying on this car for the next 4 years. When the 4 years is over, now remember I said that originally the car was 10,000. By the time you paid for the car, you actually probably bought it for about 18,000 instead of 10,000. That's the way car dealerships and banks make money. They would prefer you to have a car note, because they make more money. So, I just got a new car recently myself. A 2017 Acura TLX. Now, I do have a note, but I'm paying it off in big chunks. Like the last check I sent them was like $5,000. I think it was 6. No, the last check I sent was 6. And then I'm gonna save up I got another 3,000-4,000. So I'm gonna pay it off. So next year it's time to pay for it. Because I calculated how much I will pay for it if I spend the next 5 years paying for it. I'm like, oh no. A lot more. So, all right. So there's today's financial car buying advice. Well, like I said, sometimes you gotta have a car note. So, let's see. All right, today announcements. I'm assuming you guys got the email I sent last night or yesterday afternoon. Okay, so I'm gonna go over that at the end when more of your classmates are here.
And another thing, Mr. Jones, I checked my grades, and the grades for the parenting styles, still no grade coming up on.
Check it again. It's there. Check it again.
I will today.
It's there.
And the next coming test is next week?
Pardon me?
The next coming test is next week?
Absolutely. I'm gonna go over that right now. Okay. So some of the announcements that I'm gonna go over now include we're gonna finish chapter 9. Anybody see the sign-in sheet? That's okay. We're going to finish chapter 9 development today. We already went through young childhood, we went through adolescence. Today is going to be mostly about adulthood. That's what's there. And the different changes that we continue to evolve in adulthood. Then we're going to go right into our next chapter, which is chapter 10, personality. Something we all have. All of us have personalities. We all have different personalities. And this is psychology's attempt, as well as psychologists' attempts to understand what makes us have the personalities that we have. And during this time, we're going to Oh, we're gonna be hearing about some really strange things, including some of the beliefs of Sigmund Freud. And this is where you're gonna realize, you can be like, "Well, Sigmund Freud, something's wrong with him. Something was wrong with him." But we'll get into that later. Also, your next set of quizzes, hopefully you did the last two, are Chapter 9, Development, Chapter 10, Personality. Now, those quizzes are due October 27th. That was also mentioned in the email, so October 27th. Now, the other announcements, I'm gonna save to the end of class so that people are present. In the meantime, let's get going and continue on with the last part of development. And like I said, we went through the childhood years, we went through the teenage years, also known as adolescence. Now we're getting to emerging adulthood. You'll need to write this down. This is a period beginning in the late teenage years and extending into the mid-20s. So we're talking about basically 18, 19 years old to your mid-20s, which I'm assuming some of you in this room are in your emerging adulthood period. So late teen years into the mid-20s, which is also, this is where, for some, life starts to get a little challenging. Because when you're a little kid, you think it's challenging, whatever, you know, you get the teen issues. This is the period
beginning.
Now, like from 19 to 25, not only are you trying to figure yourself out, you're trying to figure out your life. You're trying to figure out your
Late
goals.
teenage years.
You're trying to figure out your relationships. You're trying to figure out your career. At this point, especially in the economy we live in,
Extending
most people in this age range want you guys
into the mid-20s.
Because the cost of living is special. And the jobs most of you have, unfortunately, don't pay you enough to have your own. Now, feel free to disagree with me if anybody, maybe somebody who's 24 has a really great job and you can have your own place. Now, if you really want to get out of your parents' house, there are some options for people these days. What are some of those options? If you're this age, you want to get out, but you can't afford it, what's something you do? Roommate. You get a roommate. You can get 2 roommates. You can get 3 roommates. Now, I advise you, if you go to route a roommate, make sure it's a roommate you can trust. Because I've had many clients in this age group who I'm finally moving out, and they move out, and they get 2 roommates. And all it takes is one roommate to suddenly not be able to pay their part of the rent. And then, of course, you got issues with one roommate, they may not be the cleanest person, or you have one roommate that always wants to have company late at night. You have one person who doesn't smoke weed, but the other roommate smokes weed all the time. So, and also too, I don't recommend this, but if you also want to get on your own, and you can say, you can always get married. I only recommend that if you are with somebody that you want to marry, and they feel the same. Yeah, it's not the easiest time period, especially with the economy and what's going on in the world. So now for most people at this age group, when you're at this age, you're at the peak of physical health. You're probably never going to be healthy, well, you could be if you work out, but your body is really in a good shape. Now, gradual changes start to take place when you move into the middle adulthood. But early adulthood, you're feeling pretty good. So now, because there's not really much going on from the middle adulthood until you start moving on to late adulthood. Not late, but kind of middle age.
Period when women start
Middle.
and
And so
strong
if you're a female
or not.
and you get to
Fertile, usually in their late 40s or early
50s,
50s.
you will probably experience what is known as menopause. I'll give you a moment to write that term down, because that is clearly on the exam.
No, sir. Fertile. Late 40s or early 50s.
Now, some of you in this room are very familiar with the term menopause, either because you learned about it, from reading videos. Some of you are familiar with the term because you have a mother or a grandmother or an auntie or a friend who has reached this point in their life. Menopause, the period in which women stop menstruating and are no longer fertile. They can't have children anymore. This usually takes place in the late 40s or early 50s. Now, it can actually happen before the late 40s. Some women experience what's called premature menopause, where it happens before. Is anybody familiar with the term menopause, or know anybody who's gone through menopause? Only two? Okay. See, so this is a period that women are going to experience. Now, unfortunately, menopause is something called perimenopause. Perimenopause is something that happens before menopause. And women are going to experience this, but for some reason in society, this is not talked about much. Even women, older women, sometimes don't even talk to their own daughters about this. And you're like, well, why is that important? Well, let me tell you why it's important. Because at this stage, at menopause and the period before it, perimenopause, there's a lot of changes happening in a woman's body. A lot of changes. Everything from not only the hormonal thing, the hormones are changing. Of course, they're not even fertile anymore, but they may go through what's called hot and cold flashes. They may become far more moodier or easier to agitate. They may have muscle aches, soreness. They may have headaches. There's so many other things that come along with this period that can affect other people in their lives. So, for example, a husband and wife could be having far more arguments than normal, and the husband's like, I don't get it. What's going on? Why can't I seem to do anything right? She's always blaming me for everything. It may be possible that from an emotional standpoint, these are changes taking place because she is going through menopause. And even as a young person, you may be wondering, why is my mom tripping so much lately? Why is she so angry lately? Maybe she's going through a physical change. And like I said, for some reason our society, we do not talk about that much. So as a family therapist, sometimes if I'm dealing with a couple and they having issues, sometimes based upon the woman's age, I will ask, hey, have you started perimenopause or menopause? And if they say yes, then we need to put that on the table and understand that may also be what's causing conflict in the marriage. Because maybe before they reach perimenopause or menopause, maybe, they would get into arguments, but it would be okay. It would be that big deal. But now, when they get into an argument, it's real intense. And so that's why it's important this is discussed. Now, lately, I'm saying lately, I mean within the last few years, more people are starting to talk about it because celebrities are starting to talk about it. They're doing specials, people are doing articles. But before now, because I ask my clients all the time, my middle-aged female clients, I ask them all the time. I go, so did your mother ever tell you about menopause or talk to you about it? They go, no. Have you talked to your daughters about it? No. So I don't, like I said, mothers and grandmothers aren't even talking to their children about this. But it's coming. Ladies, one day you're going to be here too. And men, if you have women in your life, you will need to have a better understanding of this period as well. Just tell them. That's good. Some of the symptoms are so difficult and traumatic, and headaches, that they can get a woman to go through hormonal treatment to try to help manage. Now, for men, we don't go through menopause, and therefore we can remain fertile, meaning we can father children well into a late adulthood. Like let's say a 50-year-old woman, she may not be able to have children anymore, but a man could be 60, 70, and still have sperm, which may not even be healthy, but he can still have sperm and produce a child. All right. Now also, when we look at social development in adulthood, this is like, we're still all about adulthood. This is like socially things that are changing. This is a time as adult where you're getting into your careers. Some of us are deciding to get married. Some of us are starting to have families. Your generation is a little different. Well, by that I mean a lot of people in your generation aren't exactly racing to the altar. A lot of people in your generation are even struggling to not only stay in a relationship, but your group are struggling with even starting relationships. I don't know why that is. Anybody have any idea? I mean, now, once again, be critical thinkers. You don't have to accept what I'm saying. If somebody wants to disagree with that, if you believe your generation is getting married, and let me know. You guys, is your generation getting married? What's that about? Why y'all not getting married? What was that?
I said, I do.
I don't know what's your group, your peer group.
I think there's just too many, like, the micro cheating. What the hell?
You said micro cheating like?
That's like a thing apparently.
What is the micro cheating like?
It's like, it's not really cheating, like, if it's just a small thing or something like that. I'm like, y'all got problems. And don't bridge me with this generation.
Don't put you in with this generation. Aren't you a part of this generation?
Listen, I was born 2000. I like to say that I'm a millennial, even though I'm not, but I'm not the one who's eating iPods and running around doing things.
When I talk about your group, I'm really talking about millennials and Gen Z.
Gen Z is the worst. It's the worst.
Some of those people are Gen Z.
Alright.
Just letting you know.
It's 2003 Gen Z.
I don't know, what's 2003? Is that Gen Z or millennial? Who's that? That's Gen Z.
I think Gen Z is like 1999 to like 2012-ish, right around that range.
2012. So if you were born in that group, you are Gen Z, and the group millennials are from what to what?
Millennials, I think they're like from the 80s to like the late
The
90s.
millennials are in
Because
their
they're coming of
30s.
age right as the turning of the millennia. That's why they're called millennials.
Okay, right, that makes sense. Okay, so, yeah, I don't, you guys, now, some of your group are having kids, because your millennials and Gen Zs like having sex. You do like having sex. Now, some of you decide to not necessarily do protection. I'm hearing some strange things. I'm seeing videos. You guys, I don't know where these two groups of people don't like wearing condoms. That's just what because I'm just being honest. I know we're getting a little adult topic, people who are adults. I'm hearing that both the male and the female prefer it to be more natural. And natural is great, but natural comes with consequences, potentially. You guys know that, like there is pregnancy, and then there's STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. So yeah, your group, I'm just curious. You don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to. How many of you hope to one day get married? Okay.
No.
Wow, it's not even half. Okay. And that's okay, because marriage is not for everybody. Just know that. Don't feel bad if you don't want to get married, that's fine. Some of you may not want children, and that's fine too, because you know what? Marriage is not for everybody. Children are not for everybody. College isn't for everybody. The military isn't for everybody. You just gotta know what works for you. So there is no judgment. It's better that you know it, that you're true to yourself, because I have worked with parents who have more than one who have said, if I knew then what I know now, I would not have children. I've had adult clients tell me, I love my kids, but if I could do it all over again, no. Because being a parent, for better or worse, it has got to be one of the most difficult jobs on the planet. Simultaneously, it has to be one of the most important jobs on the planet. What's more important than raising kids? And doing it in a positive, healthy way. So it's not for everybody. Now, also during, as socially developing in this age, this middle-aged adulthood period, some people suggest that when a person gets older and they may start looking back on their life, they may start to be dissatisfied, they may not like the way things turned out, and then they may go through a period known as the midlife crisis. Now, supposedly there's no evidence, but the midlife crisis is basically a stage where a middle-aged person looks back on their life and like, you know what? This is not the way I wanted my life to be. And they start making changes. You know what? I'm tired of driving the family van. I want a sports car. That's what guys say. Females are like, you know what? I'm getting with my girl. Like, we about to have my girl something. Like, we party. We're going to say this. Like, people start wanting to do things that they didn't do earlier in their life. When you get to middle age, you start thinking about stuff like, my life is halfway over. How much time do I have left? And none of us know how much time we have left, no matter what age you are. Fortunately, somebody in this room may not be here 10 years from now. Could be me, you. So we just don't know. Now, let's talk more about marriage, children, divorce, and family ties. Now, divorce trends have doubled in number, as well as the number of single-parent households in the last 2 decades. So there's more single parents and there's more divorce than ever before. First-time marriages, 39% end in divorce. So that's pretty close to 40% of marriages for the first time end in divorce. Anybody have any idea why first marriages, why there's so many more divorces, why so many marriages don't work? Anybody? Yes, Steve?
I think the number of divorces doubled because historically marriage was not up to the woman to decide. They needed to depend on a husband for a bank account or to have any social movement.
I would have to check that box. I totally agree. That is definitely one thing that has played a role. That back in the day, women were more dependent on the man. Like, even back when I was a kid, it was common that the dad went to work and the mom stayed home and raised the kids. So the mother was tied to, she had to stay. Even if the marriage was not a healthy, positive. 1 second, over here.
I want to say like financial lifestyles, just in general, for, like women, and, like probably just getting into like, the marriage firsthand, and like 5 years down the line, a lot of those things kind of like into play for like couples.
I agree. And the financial piece is big because now women feel like they have more independence and don't need to rely on the man. I'm gonna come back to that thought in a second. Yes, Jen?
I think it's more of just, how old generation is all has, okay, old generation has a lot of trauma, where they were raised differently than the new generation. So I think it's more of them laying the traumas, define them. I don't know if I'm using the right word, but you get what I'm saying.
So it sounds like you're saying that people are addressing their traumas,
No,
or what do you think?
sorry, no, I'm saying like, because of their issues and their unresolved issues,
Unresolved issues.
that can play a part in the marriage, and then break it up.
You're absolutely, as a couples therapist, absolutely, unresolved issues can create a problem in a relationship, yes. You know, it's true, it's true. But here's the thing, though, in reality, everybody has issues. Everybody. Everybody. Didn't nobody grow up in a perfect family? You just didn't. Because nobody's parents are perfect. So, our society, our communities, they're not perfect either. And so we all have stuff to overcome. Now, some people have huge things to overcome. Abuse, poverty, and some people have smaller things to overcome, but it's still impactful. Maybe a person has to overcome the divorce that their parents went through. Or maybe, I don't know, they had to relocate because their house caught on fire. Or maybe the dad was unemployed and it's made them struggle financially. But we all have stuff to deal with. We all have different degrees of issues, challenges, and some of those issues and challenges are traumatic. I mean, you get in a major accident, your life can be changed dramatically. Like it could be, you could have a really great life, oh, I'm fine, and then you can get in a major, have a major fall, have a major traffic accident, and your whole life is just turned upside down in an instant. So we all have stuff to do. Now, back to the women and money. It's just my opinion. Women have also, to me, raised their standards in what they want in a man. Not all, but a lot of them. And that's because women, this is where I think society really, I wish they would get something different. For generations, adults started telling little girls, you don't need no man to succeed. You don't have to wait on a man to buy a house. You don't have to wait, man, to get your own car. You don't need to wait on it. Just do you. Go for it. You can be anything you want to be. You can become anyone you want to become. Girls can code, and girls can do all that, and little girls are getting all this really important information, encouraging them to be the most. But boys, meanwhile, weren't getting any real messages like that. As a male, you know what messages boys get? Anybody have any? Like when you're a little boy, you don't get, you can be anything you want. Anybody know what boys typically are told when they're growing up?
Man up.
There you go. Man up. So it starts out when they're a little boy, and the little boy falls, and they start crying. Big boys don't what? Big boys don't cry. And then when you get a little older, the little boy gets a little older, it becomes man up. Don't be a punk. Don't be a PUSS, whatever. So little boys are being groomed to keep their emotions inside, because to show your emotions is weakness. That's really the only messages that I see that boys get growing up. Toughen up, man up, be strong, keep your emotions out. And so that's it. And so women and men get together, and the women go, you never open up to me. That's because men were groomed to not open up to anybody. Do you think, females, ladies, do you think men rarely even open up to other men? It's gotta be their number one homie, best friend, cousin you grew up with for them to open up. Because that's why guys get together, they talk about sports, politics, they may talk about women, and so is fine. They're not going deep with stuff, not typically, because we're not conditioned to go deep. So women are like, you don't open up, you always keep stuff to yourself. Where women are taught, express yourself, share your feelings, don't keep it inside. It's a y'all get with y'all girlfriends, y'all pour it out on the line. Guys will get heartbroken, and they're scared to tell their boys, I'm really in pain, I'm really hurt. I cried last night before I went to sleep. Guys are not comfortable. These are generalities, of course. Guys are not typically gonna tell their boy, yo, I cried myself to sleep last night because of our breakup. I've never heard a male friend tell me that in my entire life.
But do they do that?
Yes, they do. Yes. Yes. I've cried myself to sleep at night over a breakup before. That don't mean I told my boys about it, but yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Men do cry. They've just been conditioned to not do it in public. I remember, who are football fans in here? Okay, so there's a quarterback who plays for the Bears right now. His name is Caleb Williams. For those of you who don't know, so I think he's in his second year. He was a quarterback at USC, I believe. Okay. When he was there, he was a really great college football quarterback. He was. But it was a really important game that was on national TV. I think it was against, and his team lost. And he took the loss so hard, he went into the stands where his mother and father were. I mean, this is like the game is over. Instead of going to the locker room and getting out of uniform, he went in the stands where his parents were and went to his mother and cried. Just cried all in her shoulder. Just boo-hooing. That was talked about in sports circles for weeks. Because some people were saying it shows how passionate he was about winning and how that loss really affected him. And some other people said that looked weak. You're the quarterback. You're supposed to be the leader of the team. You're not supposed to be showing your emotions like that. Not out in public. You go do that in the locker room. But you don't go cry. You don't climb the stands and cry on your mother. I'm just saying, but that was because our society is not used to seeing men do that. How many of you know this incident that I'm talking about? Has anybody ever heard this incident? Okay. Yeah, it was on the news. Like it was. I remember I was watching the game. Matter of fact, I know who they were playing. They were playing Washington Huskies because the quarterback on the other team was the quarterback of the Falcons right now, which is Michael Penix. So, anyway, just pointing that out. Clearly, there's a lot of single-parent households, as we talked about. So, the evidence says that, regardless, children from a single-parent family is no less well-adjusted than those from a two-parent. So, of course, ideally, you want to have two parents in the home. But that doesn't mean a single parent can't raise a very healthy child. That's all they're saying. What's most important is harmony in the home. Whether it's two parents or one parent, a home without conflicts or few conflicts is always better. People always talk about, yes, that's the problem with society now. We have too many single parents. Yeah, but that may be true, that we do have a lot of single parent households. But if you have two parents in the home, but they have a toxic relationship, or the father is violent or always aggressive, he's doing more damage than good. So, all right, let's move on. So now we're into the growing old stage. You know, before we go any further, I want to show you this quick video. It's just kind of entertaining. It's only like 2-3 minutes. You know when you're young, since we're talking about adulthood, you know when you're younger, you're like, I can't wait to grow up. Because you think when you grow, you're going to have all these opportunities, yes.
Mr. Jones, are there fathers that are abusive but never snap or yell at all to their children at all?
Are there fathers who are abusive who never snapped on their children?
Yeah, but there are.
Probably. See, abuse can be different things. Mm-hmm. So you can have abuse where the dad is physically hitting their children. That can happen. But then you can have abuse where the father does not hit the child, but he uses his words. You're never going to be anything. You're never gonna be anybody. You're gonna be just like your mother, nobody. So now we're talking about emotional abuse, but there's no hitting. And then you could have another abuse, which is simply neglect, where the father is there, but he doesn't interact with the child. He just doesn't. He rarely talks to the child. They don't do anything together. Because he feels just paying the bills as being a father. I did my part. I get out there. So there's different ways that a child can be abused or that negatively impacted. Now, you can't really call defects on a father who doesn't play with the child. I'm calling defects on you. You don't talk to your child. That's not really reported.
What would happen if the father would change if something did happen that would then interact with his family?
Well, that would be great if the father changes. That would be great. I mean, some of you in this room maybe grew up with your father, and your father may have been there, but your father didn't do much with you. It's just an unfortunate reality because my dad did not play with me. I have no memory of the only memory I have of my dad is him taking off my training wheels off my bicycle. And I know he took us to the circus every year when the circus came to town. He took my sister, my mom, and I to the circus. I have no memory of him playing catch, throwing any type of ball around, going to the park, going to the movies. Not a single memory of him wrestling with me, picking me up, throwing me in the air. Not a single memory of that at all. Once again, I'm pretty sure, I don't even have a picture as a kid with my dad. There is one, my dad didn't like to be on, I don't know, maybe he was a wanted man, I don't know. He didn't like his picture taken. So I have one picture as a kid with my dad, and in the picture, I'm on my little bicycle inside the house, and I'm in the room where he's at, and I'm sure my mother's trying to get a picture of us together, and he's smoking a cigarette, he's in the den, and he's blocking his face so his face won't be in picture. That's the only, I still have that picture. So, all right, so let's look at this quick video, and we're going to see, it's just a funny take, it's kind of entertaining. Once again, it's about when you're younger, what you think adulthood is like, and then the reality of what adulthood is like. And this is, because this is mostly your age group anyway.
We're adults now, so we can eat ice cream all day! Yay! Oh, you want some ice cream? Oh, I don't do dairy. Right. You know what's awesome? What? Having so much money!
Oh, dude, you want to see a movie tonight?
Yeah, dude. You have any money?
No, I don't.
Did you? No, I don't have any money. I'm really broke. You're my best friends forever! Forever! Woo! This is the best slumber party ever!
Hey, what's up?
I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna have to cancel tonight.
Oh man, that's a bummer. Well, we'll plan something for next week, okay?
It sounds good.
Alright, bye.
Yeah.
Yes, honey?
Sending her to Harvard today.
But Timmy's 14 years old.
I know.
Oh. I love you.
I love you.
Honey, I'm home.
Hi, darling. How was your day at work being an astronaut?
Babe, it was stellar. I'm home.
Did you get a promotion?
They gave it to Gary.
Gary? Should have married Gary.
Hey, thanks for watching. Hey, stay here this week's mug giveaway winner. Best of the night and
look
you
at,
get your mug. If you want to win a free mug, how do you do that? But
How we think life is going to be, and it turns out when we get older, Not exactly like that. All right. All right, so now we're in the later years. We're moving into what's considered old age, where people aren't as physically active. Mentally, there's a decline. There are people called gerontologists who study the aging process. And people today are living longer into adulthood, and so that number will probably increase. We don't need to get into this, but these are different theories about aging, about how wear and tear on our body takes place and things like that. But I do want you to know about when it comes to cognitively, there is a decline, but the healthier people are, the better. And so a lot of people are able to compensate as they get older, as the mental, like, as long as you keep your mind active, you can help stave off the mental decline. So people don't do anything, they don't play games, they don't do activities, they don't play chess, they don't do crossword puzzles and things like that. Okay, which brings us to Alzheimer's disease. We talked about cognitive changes. There are changes that involve our memory, which sometimes affects older adults' ability to hold information. So therefore, you have a question?
We already went through that before, haven't we?
Alzheimer's, yeah, we did talk about Alzheimer's.
So no need for me to write it down.
This time it will be on the test. So,
Progressive brain disorder that leads to a gradual and reversible
Decline
decline in cognitive abilities.
I've had to deal with this. Who needs to sign the attendance sheet? Yeah, there's one, and pass it in the back. Alzheimer's disease, a progressive brain disorder that leads to gradual and irreversible decline in cognitive abilities. Literally, the brain shrinks, neurons die, different parts of the brain, hippocampus, thalamus, temporal lobes, literally deteriorate. Alzheimer's is a common cause of dementia. How many of you know or have known someone to have Alzheimer's or dementia? 1, 2, that's it? Only 2 of you? Okay. Well, at some point in your life, many of you, I'm not going to say all of you, at some point in your life, many of you are going to know somebody who's going to be struggling or dealing with Alzheimer's disease or some other type of dementia. Maybe an older person, maybe an uncle, an aunt, a grandparent, a mother, a father, and they're going to start, the first signs, they're going to struggle to remember things. They're going to be very forgetful. It can be just little things at first. It can be what I did with my purse. I don't know what I did with it. Always losing money. Where are the keys? From there, progress to suddenly they forgot to cut the stove off. They forgot to lock the door. They forgot why they went outside. And when it gets really severe, they may forget the phone number. They may forget where they live. Or they may forget you, even though you are a beloved family member. They're not doing it on purpose. They just don't remember who you are.
Okay.
Maybe you can remind them and they remember. And then that memory goes again and they don't remember. I know I had to go through that with my mom. My mom's last 3 years, she didn't remember how well I was. Pardon? It really wasn't that painful, and I don't know if it's because of who I am as a person or who I am as a therapist. Because what happens is people take that personal. I can't believe my mom or my grandmother doesn't remember who I am. That's so hurtful. It is sad, it is hurtful, but it's not their fault. My mother didn't choose to forget who her son and daughter were. It's just the state of her condition. And so that's acceptance is so important in life. There's certain things we just have to accept. It's when we resist that we get problems. Everybody in this room is going to die or transition from whatever this form of life is to the next one. Everybody, none of us are getting out of it. We just have to accept that as a reality. We have to accept that certain things in life that we want to happen are not going to happen. But some things are going to happen, but not everything. We're going to lose people we love, whether it's an intimate partner and you break up, or they pass away. So, if I wanted to, just like somebody else, I could have let that depress me. I can't believe my mom doesn't know who I am. She doesn't remember me. I then went somewhere and cried about it. Does that change anything? It changes nothing. Me crying. So my best I need to do is accept what's going on and try to ensure that my mother is as comfortable as she possibly can be. That's really all I can do. That's all any of us can do. Until they find a way to treat this or address it. And every older person, I don't want you to think every senior citizen is going to have Alzheimer's or some type of dementia, because that's not the case. There's some 95-year-olds who can, sharp as a tack, they can remember everything. Those exist too. So, all right. And then finally, speaking of certain things we have to accept, we have to adjust to the idea of death. Not only our own, but the people in our lives. And so there's a famous author, her name is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She wrote a lot of books about death and dying. And so they came up with thoughts. She came up, her and her co-author came up with what's kind of known as the stages of grief. It's like when we lose somebody we care about, we go through these different stages. First, there's a stage of denial. Like, I can't believe he's gone. I can't believe my father's gone. I can't believe my mom's gone. That's denial. Sometimes there's anger. Can't believe God took my mom away from me. Or that hospital, they're at fault. If they would have did what they did, if they would have did their jobs, my uncle would still be here. That's anger. Then another stage they may go through when they lost a loved one is bargaining. Bargaining is when you're like, oh, please don't let this be true. Please bring them back. I promise I'll go back to church. I'll be there every Sunday. That's the bargaining piece. And then at some point, one of the stages is going to be depression. And it's really, really sad that person is no longer here. And these are all normal experiences. I don't want you to think like this is, most of us will go through these different stages. And the last stage, which is very difficult to get to, is acceptance. It's accepting that person is gone. As a therapist, one of the biggest challenges with helping a client is working with somebody who's dealing with grief and loss. I've had many clients who literally, that's why they came to therapy, because their mother just died, because their mother and their brother died, because they've lost 3 people. During the pandemic, I have no idea how you feel about the pandemic, but I can tell you for a fact, I had several clients that lost more than one family member or friend. But during that window of time, there was a lot, and then funerals were difficult because you didn't want large groups of people together. So funerals were like small. Or I've also had clients, I'm gonna tell you what's really difficult. As a therapist, to have a client who lost a child. Whether it's they lost a child before the child was born, the child was stillborn, or the child lived for a few weeks, or the child died at the age of 2. That is very difficult for a parent, for a family, and even as a therapist. Because think about it, what do you tell somebody? I had a client, she had twins, and when they were born, one of the twins was just really small and frail and weak, and they were like, they knew that in the womb, that they were like, you have one child, we don't know if it's gonna make it, it's just so tiny. The other one was vibrant and healthy and alive. They both were born. They don't know why. The strong, big, healthy one died. The smaller, frail one lived. So, as a therapist, think about that. This person coming to you with that issue, that's tough. There's no magic words you can say. Because most of us don't know what to say to people like that. We're like, well, it'll be okay, or that's not gonna happen. They're in pain. You can't say, well, you can have another child. That's not gonna work either. Because they tell me what people tell them. And they always tell me that they tell them stuff that's not helping. But I know people don't know what to say. Oh, well, God has your child now, so it'll be okay. That's not comforting either. There's really no comforting words you can say to a parent who just lost their child. So, and not everybody deals with these stages in the same way. But we all have our grieving period. We all have a grieving period. Yep.
Do you have 5 stages of grief? That's an important topic, I think, 5 stages of grief. Do you have a thing that does the DABDA to remember them in order?
I don't, but you can create one.
Oh.
It's not really a test, but if you want to create one.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if this was going to be on a test, I would say come up with
I'm just asking
a way to.
for me.
Yeah. Okay. See, they have to rearrange it because I don't like that. Like you could.
Oh, you don't like that order?
Well, because there's no real order. Because everybody. You may not.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like.
Yeah. Okay.
Like if you feel like I've had clients who literally felt like the hospital negligence was the reason why their loved one died. So their first stage was anger. They were in the hospital going off on people. So anger was first. Denial was like I had one client. Denial was later. She was in denial for a long time because it was her father. I remember her saying, we had been working together for 3 months, and she was still like, I can't believe he's gone. I can't believe my dad is still gone. I'm still expecting him to call me. It's 3 months later. So, and you don't even know how long you'll be in any of these stages. The depression could last. I had a client, he lost his wife. He came to me a year after his wife died. He was still struggling with depression. So, and that's it for development through the lifespan. Okay, so now we shall begin a brand new chapter. And it is chapter 10. It is called Personality. Because we all have one. We all have personality. Now, they're all different, but we all have them. And so, for this chapter, we should start out by defining the term. What the heck does the word personality really mean? Does anybody else need to sign attendance sheet?
Personality is the way how you act makes you who you are.
That is true. Yes, personality is what has you being the way you are.
Like calm, humble, cool, and super sweet.
And we all have different personalities. Who else needs to sign? passing down.
Produce consistency.
Some people have personalities and you don't want to be around them.
Individuality.
Enduring.
What was that?
Enduring.
And how a person thinks, feels, and acts.
Enduring. I don't know
That's
if
not
enduring.
endear, like.
It should be, yes, enduring. Yes, it says enduring. That's just a test definition. I hate it.
No, it's a good word.
It is.
It's a very good word.
It is.
And
Like endearing way.
Yeah.
Like,
Kind of enduring characteristics. Now,
I love you, bitch. I'm saying that in an enduring way.
Missouri.
I love you, bitch. That's enduring.
It's all about context, yes. So the pattern of enduring characteristics that produce consistency and individuality in how a person thinks, feels, and acts. That's an important part. Personality is about consistency. If a person is a nice person, they always seem to be in a good mood. The key part is they always seem to be in a good mood. That's a part of their personality. If every other time they're in a bad mood, and sometimes they're in a good mood, then that becomes their part of their personality. You know what? 50% of the time they're in a good mood, 50% of the time they're in a bad mood. That's part of their personality. Maybe they're bipolar. Yes.
next Thursday is the test.
Yes. Which I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna do announcements in the class. Make sure people are aware of the information I sent in the email. So, in this chapter, we're going to look at psychodynamic theories. Now, as a refresher, anything that is psychodynamic relates to theories that were from Sigmund Freud. Okay? And we should have time to go over some of his really, he had some really great ideas about how personality is formed. And then he had some ideas that some of you may consider sickening to me. We're going to start over. Humanistic theories. Anybody see the tennis sheet? You sleep there. Defense mechanisms. It's going to be defense mechanisms are going to be really good. And that is a Freud thing. That's good. We're going to talk about self-esteem. And then personality tests. There are tests that some of you have taken or will take that are tied into a possible job. There's some jobs you will have to take a personality test. They want to make sure you're the right person. All right. So when it comes to Freud, remember, Freud's theory is always about the unconscious mind. So he felt whatever was going on in your life is probably because of something going on inside.
Psychoanalytic.
That was him. So for him, your personality is about your internal issues. And he felt that personality was made up of 3 different parts: the id, the ego, and the superego.
Sir, could you go back about the psychoanalytic theory and the unconscious?
Now you won't need that for the test. So Freud, before I get into the id, the ego, and the superego, let me explain that the way he's using the word ego is not how we use the word ego today. He's using the ego as describes one of 3 different aspects of who we are. We use ego today as the part of you that is arrogant, rude, always think you're right, manage your ego, that part of us that think we're all big and bad, all that in a bag of chips. That's how we use ego. Now, that is not how Sigmund Freud is using the word ego, okay? So I want to make that clear. Once again, this will be Sigmund Freud saying how he thinks these 3 components create who we are today. I'm going to come back in that. I'm going to come back. I want to
Sure, no problem. Carry on, please.
After class. So, id, ego, and superego. Let's first talk about the id. This is how he defined the id. Let's do the underlying part. Sole purpose is to reduce tension created by primitive. And if you want to, you don't even have to you would just write down the underlying part that is in dark, bold print.
Instinctual
You
and
could literally
unorganized
start
part
with the
whose
id
sole
is the
purpose.
primitive drives related to hunger, sex, aggression, and irrational impulses. You don't even have to write the whole definition down. You just literally write down what's in bold. But operates on the pleasure principle will be good at that.
Unorganized part. Whose sole purpose? Is to reduce. Tension created.
So once again, it's three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. So for Freud, the id part, the whole purpose of the id is to reduce tension created by your primitive drives, the animalistic parts of you that make you just pursue satisfying hunger, sex, aggression, and irrational impulses. Think of the id as the caveman part of you, who you are. Me hungry. Me need food. Me need water. Me need woman. Me need sex. Let me just take what I want. So the id is the caveman. That'll probably help you. The id is the caveman, or cave woman, or cave person that is inside you. For him, the id's only function is on the pleasure principle, meaning doing what feels good. Whatever feels good, that's what the id is about. He's saying all of us, there's an id inside of all of us that is just trying to satisfy our urges, our inner urges. That is the id. Okay? Operates on the pleasure principle. Wants satisfaction, gratification. Y'all good here?
Yes, sir. Carry on.
Ashley, you okay? Yes, sir. All right. Now we get the superego. Once again, you can just write down what's in bold print if you like. What's right versus what's wrong inside you. So, I'll let you jot that down.
Personality that harshly.
Superego.
That harshly judges.
In many ways, the superego part of our personality, according to Freud, is really kind of like a superhero. He always wants to do what's right.
Or a bit behavior. In other words, what's right? In other words, what's right? Versus.
Superego is a part of personality that harshly judges the morality of our behavior. In other words, it judges what's right versus what's wrong in society or in our life. The superego is what prevents us from behaving improperly, doing bad things, hurting people, robbing people. And if we do something that's not right, we then feel guilty about it. That's the superego. The superego. Think of somebody with a K, like a superhero with a K. You must do what is right all the time. If you don't, you're going to go bad about it. So just make the right choices in society and in your life. And I'm that part of you that's going to help you to make the right choices. Yes, I know you could steal that person's cell phone, but you know it's wrong, so you won't do it. That's the superego. And then finally, we have the ego.
The rational, logical part.
I didn't put it in bold print, but one of the most important things
That attempts to balance.
This bottom sentence is the executive that I'm I'm gonna explain it at the executive in a second.
Desires of the id. And the reality is of the objective outside the world.
Ego, the rational, logical part that attempts to balance the desires of the id, and the id is the caveman, and the realities of the objective outside world. It's the executive that weighs a decision's risk and rewards. The executive part of our personality, according to Freud, no one else said this, it's just Freud, this is a part that the ego is saying, I know what's right, and I know what I want to do, but what should I do? It's, okay, what is the payoff to doing this? What is my reward? But if I don't do this, what is the consequence? The ego is trying to figure it out. Because the id is about satisfaction, pleasure principle. It's like, yo, give me what I want that now. The super ego is like, wait a minute, is that the right thing to do? Ego is trying to balance it all out. One way I like to think about the id, the ego, and the super ego, I think about these really old cartoons. Have anybody ever seen one of those cartoons, or sometimes where the person has the devil on one side and on one shoulder, and there's a little angel on the other shoulder? Think about that as the id, the super ego, and the ego. So basically, you, in this cartoon situation, let's say the cartoon character, the person in the middle is the ego. But on this shoulder, you got the little devil saying, go ahead, do it, do it, do it, do it. And on the other side, you have the angel saying, that would be wrong. You would hurt that person's feelings, don't do that. And there you are in the middle as the executive, as the ego trying to say, do I listen to this devil, angel? Who do I listen to? I don't know. That's kind of like the visual image of what the super ego is and the ego are. The ego is you in the middle. The super ego is the angel. And the id, aggressive, is the id. I'm sorry, the id. Super ego is the good guy. The ego is in the middle. Any questions about that?
So ego is negotiator.
Yes, ego is, that's what, when it says it's the executive, you can replace executive with the negotiator. Or the mediator, the person in the middle, trying to reach the best conclusion. This is what, I'll tell you, I'm not saying this is true at all. This is just something Freud came up with. Freud came up with some strange stuff. Okay, move on now. Okay.
I'm really lost about the ID. Like, where does that come from? What does it mean? Shouldn't have like capital letters or a period or some kind of, what does that come from? Just like, what language does that derive from? Like, what ID?
Literally from the mind of Sigmund Freud. Because I don't know if we're gonna get to it today, but I'm gonna share some stuff from the mind of Sigmund Freud. You're gonna be like, what's wrong with him? What kind of drugs did he do? And by the way, I'm almost sure he did do drugs. But I think the drugs he did were legal at the time. But I think he did cocaine, I'm not sure. But I can look it up in a second. Okay, so Freud also felt that that we as adults, that people go through 5 psychosexual stages. This is where we get to some disturbing stuff. 5 psychosexual stages that we go through from childhood to adulthood. Here are the first 2 stages, the oral stage and the anal stage. He felt this is what we go through, and that these things affect our personality down the road. He felt children have things to negotiate as they get older, as they pass through these stages. Like I said, this is where we're gonna hear some disturbing stuff. I am not saying any of what we're talking about is true or is accurate. But since Freud is one of the most famous psychologists in the history of mankind, people like discussing his theories, whether they're accurate or not. So his first two stages, his oral stage, from birth to 1.5 years old. At this stage, the infant's center of pleasure is the mouth. Now there is some truth to that, because children at this age, that's how they learn about their world, by putting stuff in their mouth, by tasting. That is normal. He felt it was a center of pleasure. So, and he felt like kids who don't work through this stage effectively, they may get older and it may make them smoke more or eat more or whatever, because they didn't pass through the oral stage properly. So from birth to 1.5. Now, the next stage, from 1.5 to 3, he called the anal stage. For him, this meant this is when children get their pleasure, basically through their anus, by either holding their poop inside or releasing the poop. That's how they get their pleasure. This takes place during toilet training. So, he felt this was an important stage. The children go through the toilet training process in a healthy way. And if they don't, they may become adults who are maybe very rigid or too punctual, or the opposite. They're never on time, whatever. So they didn't pass through the anal stage properly. So, I mean, this would be pretty easy to remember on the test, because oral is about mouth, anal is about the anus. So when you see it on the test, it kind of tells you what the answer is. Now, the next stage, this is where it's going to get a little weird, so buckle up. The phallic stage. Now, underneath the phallic stage, he felt there was something called the Oedipal conflict. I'll say it on this day, Oedipus conflict. So, I'm going to have you write, all this goes under this category. And as you write it down, you're going to be like, huh, what? And what is he saying here? And I'm going to explain what he's saying, because he's a strange guy. And then we're going to, after I explain this, we're going to stop here, and I'm going to go over some quick announcements. And then the phallic stage. This is from 3 to 6 years of age. This is where the child's center of pleasure is their genitals. This is also where he felt the Oedipal conflict, or the Oedipus complex, takes place. This is Freud, he felt that a child has unconscious sexual interest in the opposite sex parent. In other words, strange, a boy will have sexual desires toward his mother. He felt that a 3 to 6 year old boy has sexual desire for his mother and has jealousy for his father. Actually sees the father as a rival. Anybody think that's normal? Anybody think that's So, I don't know if he's speaking about his own personal demons or his own inner issues, but I don't think you'll be able to find anybody who agrees with this. That a 3 to 6 year old boy has sexual desires for his mother. And he can't stand his father because he's jealous. I've never seen that, I've never heard of that, other than here. Usually boys from 3 to 6 year olds love their fathers. If their father interacts with them, most of the boys are crazy about their dads, because their dads are like superheroes. Dads pick them up and throw them in the air and catch them.
Go play ball with them.
That's what he felt. As a matter of fact, there's also, this wasn't really his thing, the female version of the Oedipal conflict is the electric complex, where the female, the little girl from 3 to 6, has sexual desires for her father. And that she's jealous of her mother. Look on some of your faces, you guys. You guys okay? I'm just. I'd say and it's gross, and I don't think it's accurate. I think something happened to him when he was a kid. Now, maybe as a kid he had, maybe he's speaking about himself. Okay, so there are 2 more stages. And we're going to stop here because I want to make these announcements, especially since people came late. I want to save this to the end. Now, Thursday, we're going to finish this chapter, and then we're going to do our review activity for the next exam. Okay? Now, if you don't have time, you may, because I know what the review activity is, you may be taking it home. Okay. We'll see how Thursday works out. Because the exam, let me jump to next week. Next Tuesday, there is no class.
What?
Why not?
Why couldn't it have been this Tuesday? My kid was out of school. The fall break. Sorry.
Now, I didn't say school is canceled next Tuesday. This class will not take place next Tuesday.
This coming next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, don't come here. Unless you just want to be here, you want to go to the library, you want to take advantage of the text facility, that's fine. But there is no class on Tuesday. Okay?
So then Thursday we'll start the test practice?
Thursday will be the test. Okay? Now I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to say it again on Thursday. I also will not be here on Thursday for the test.
Oh man.
But listen carefully. The dean of the psychology department will be here, and she's going to hand you your test. It's going to be the same test. It's not. I'm giving her a test to give to you.
Dean of psychology.
You said you met her before. It's her. You met her. Now I do want to. I'm going to say this again on Thursday. I always tell you, be on time for your test.
This Thursday?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Be on time. Because she is far more stricter about being on time than I am. In her class, if you come too late, she'll be like, she's going to consider you absent. So if you come late during the test, she may say it's too late for you to take this test. You're going to have to deal with Frank when he comes back. I'm just giving you the heads up.
Well, so you're not going to be here Thursday?
Pardon me?
You're not going to be here Thursday?
I'm not going to be here next week at all. Tuesday is no class. Thursday is your test. Yes.
I was going to ask, why do that when people are paying for the class? You know?
I understand. I get it. But you know what? There was a time, I mentioned this before, where if you missed 6 classes, you failed this class, or any class. At Gwinnett Tech, if you had 6 absences, you automatically failed the course. When I first started here, that was the rule. So I would tell students, sometimes I would send them an email, oh, by the way, just so you know, you can only miss 2 more classes, so you need to try to make sure you're here. There were times I had to fail students because they missed more than 6 classes. No matter what you got on the test. They ended up, after a year or 2, they ended up stopping that rule. But I'm just telling you. And if you came too late, if you missed most of the class, they counted that as an absence because you missed most of the class. Yes.
When will we practice for the test? This week and Thursday?
Thursday, we're going to do a review activity as long as we have time. So Thursday, we're going to finish this chapter on personality because it's not that long of a chapter. It's probably about, I don't know, 6, 7 more slides to go through that you need to jot down information. And then if we have, then we should be able to do a review activity. So that's all happening on Thursday. So once again, Thursday, finishing this chapter on personality and a review activity. A week from today, Tuesday, no class. but your test is Thursday. Same thing, same rules apply. Bring your Scantron, number your pencil, be on time. Also, for those of you who were not here last week, you have a midterm assessment assignment. It's due this Friday, the 17th. It's reading a really short article from Psychology Today. Really short. Answer 5 questions. I almost feel like it's mandatory. I know it's important. Like,
Is this on the blackboards?
it's in Blackboard. Go to chapter. It's in lesson 4. Go to lesson 4. Click on lesson 4, and it'll pop right on up. You have until Friday.
Who's this dean's name?
What is the last name? Let's talk about first name.
You said lesson 4, what was the chapter?
Her first name is Tracy. Oh, I can't remember her last name right now, but I'll tell you. I'll make it before. Yes, what was that? Any questions? Any questions? All right, so if you have no other questions, hopefully I see everybody on Thursday. Have a great rest of your day. And good Wednesday too.